Hi folks, Dave Schmidt here. It's the morning of July 14th as I'm coming to you today. This week I want to talk to you about preparing for the upcoming currency collapse. Now 3 weeks ago I had brought in my newsletter and in the video message that is inevitable, as vast majority of financial experts, reputable people off of Wall Street, are all projecting it is going to happen. I discussed that there. You may want to go back and listen to that. You can go to my website, thesedonaconnection.com. You can click on the archives page, or you can scroll down to 3 weeks ago and you'll see the article about the upcoming currency collapse. I give you videos, comments from experts, and they're all saying it's inevitable. Why? Because the United States is so far in debt. Most experts say that a country can run to about 70 to 80% indebtedness of its annual gross domestic product. When they start getting beyond that, they get into deep financial problems. When they start getting beyond 120 to 150%, they're in serious financial problem. Well, right now, the United States is at 245% indebtedness to its annual gross domestic product. That's a train wreck that's coming. Okay, I now want to play for you a short 4-minute video by noted economist Peter Schiff. He compares the United States to Greece and then also tells you about the indebtedness problem in the United States and why this is going to bring about our currency collapse.
Well, the reason I bring this point up is because the only difference between Greece and the United States is the perception of our creditors. Because we are just as broke, right? We have borrowed more money than we can repay. Not only have we borrowed it like Greece, and we owe over $18 trillion when it comes to the national debt, right? The bonds that have been issued where we actually owe principal and interest payments. But just like Greek politicians, American politicians have made all sorts of promises to everybody to get votes. And there's nothing that's going to stop the U.S. government from repaying its commitments in worthless money. Just like there's nothing that's going to stop the Greeks once they get the euro out of their way and go back to the drachma. We already have a precedent now for doing this. They call it quantitative easing. We've had 3 rounds of it. Everybody seems to agree that it worked, that printing money has no negative consequences, so why not do it? Right? If we're in trouble, why not print money? The difference is that our creditors still perceive that we're good for our promises, and so the dollar is still accepted, whereas the drachma won't be. But the question is, for how long? You know, look how long the Greeks were able to borrow in euros at such low interest rates, even though it should have been obvious to the lenders that there was no way the Greek economy could generate the surpluses to repay the debt. Well, the same thing is true in the United States. We can keep on printing money, but we can't actually repay. It's impossible to raise taxes sufficiently to honor the debt. All we have to hope is that our creditors never want their money back, that whenever the bonds mature, that they roll them over, and they continue to do so at record low interest rates. Well, when our creditors decide that they don't want to play this game anymore, then the Greek tragedy unfolds in the United States. Because if our creditors want our money back, we don't have it. Right? We're no more capable of paying than Greece is. And that's when the default through inflation really kicks in. Because in the same way that Greek politicians don't want to stiff their constituents, U.S. politicians don't want to come clean either. Our politicians don't want to deliver the bad news. They don't want to tell government workers that they got to take a pay cut. They don't want to tell government retirees that they're not going to get all the pension benefits that they promised. They don't want to level with the American people that there's not enough money to pay Social Security, and now we've got to means test it, or we have to have some kind of an asset base, or we've got to raise the retirement age. They don't want to tell people that, hey, if your bank fails, it's tough because we don't have any money to bail you out, or if your brokerage firm goes under, sorry, we can't bail you out. We made too many promises. They don't want to tell the cities and the states when they have a natural disaster, you're on your own. Right? They want to play Santa Claus. They want to dole out all this government money. And they can but what they can't do is give that money any value. No more than the Greek government is going to be able to impose value on the drachma. The U.S. government will not be able to impose value on the dollar if our creditors don't want it. And when the dollar collapses and prices skyrocket, it's not going to do any good if the government kept its promise in money that doesn't buy anything. So I would give the same advice today to Americans as I would for Greeks. Don't hold on to dollars, just like you're not going to hold on to drachma. Turn your dollars into something else, something of real tangible value that the government can't create out of thin air.
So how do we prepare for that? That's a question a lot of you have been sending to me. So this week, what I want to do, I'm going to list to you 5 things that you can do to prepare. But before I list those 5 things, the first thing we always ask is the timing. Well, 2 months ago, when we were in Hong Kong, the ambassador had come back from a meeting with the Red Dragon, and he came back with the information. There is one key thing to look for that's going to be the catalyst for this change. And that is when the Chinese renminbi, or the Chinese yuan as it's also called, the China country currency, is added to the basket of world reserve currencies. The United States is one of those. It's obviously the biggest, but there's actually a number of them, and I'll show you that chart here in this video of the different world reserve currencies. With China being added to that, it's going to create a huge shift of what's going to happen. Most people say the Chinese yuan will go up, and that is what is going to create the collapse of the US dollar. Now, right now, just recently I should say, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has placed that item on their agenda for their mid-October meeting. Most experts are saying it's inevitable. It's almost certain that it is going to happen. Well, mid-October is 4 months from now. Well, a lot of other people also are projecting into September, which is basically 3 months from now as I go through that. But in reality, I think what you have somewhere probably between 1.5 to 3 months to start preparing yourself for this coming collapse. So what I've done, I've put a list together of 5 things that you can do. I had lunch with a friend of mine here in Sedona yesterday. I ran this by her. She said it really makes sense to me, and I'm bringing that to you today. So what are the things you can do? Well, number 1, the one thing that all of them say, the very first thing to do is get out of debt as much as possible. Debt becomes like a ball and chain around your feet. It's going to hamper you. It's going to hinder you. You don't have the flexibility, nor do you have the ability to take that capital and to be able to use it to take advantage of a situation like this. Secondly, if the currency is going to collapse about 50%, it means it's going to take you twice as much to pay that debt back. So number 1, get out of debt. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And also remember, 2 weeks ago, I brought to you the debt elimination program. Number 2, prepare your home as much as possible as you would for any other disaster. Have a supply of food, water, electricity supplements, to be able to save life. We may have a disruption in our services for a short period of time. And it also could be a period of time that we could find some basically attacks upon our electrical grid system as well. Just be prepared within your home so that you're in a situation that you're in control when something like this happens and you're not panicking. We may see something similar to what happened in Greece leading up to basically the decision. The banks closed for 3 and 4 days. There were literally lines where people were lined up for 1.5 to 2 hours to get money out of the ATMs, and they were limited to around $60 to $70 a day, all that they could take out. Be prepared for that. That could possibly happen. Number 3, if you have excess capital, and I say this is the capital or the money that you have that is beyond your normal monthly operating expenses, move those to a safe place. Now, what can that mean? Number 1, get your money out of the big 4 banks. They're the ones that are so deeply tied to the derivative market. And when the currency collapse comes, you can be guaranteed those derivatives are going to collapse as well. And they will very likely take advantage of what is called the new bail-in law, where they can basically attach your money, take your money to bail themselves out. And believe me, they'll do it because they operate in their own interest first. And you and I are secondary to that. Move your money into a smaller bank, a safer bank. You may want to move it into a credit union. But remember, credit unions are only as strong as their membership. You also may want to move your money into foreign currencies. And obviously, the Chinese yuan, the Hong Kong dollar, and some of the reserve basket currencies are the ones that would be safe. You could take some of your excess capital going down to a bank and say, I want to purchase some Chinese yuan. If they don't have it in stock, they can order it for you is what they can do. If you have money sitting in a savings account that's only getting about 1% interest, then it may be in your best interest to take basically saying, I'm willing to give up my interest for a short period of time, which is almost nothing, and put it into a place where it can be preserved, okay? Also, look for countries, as I said, that are in the reserve currency basket, and I'll have a chart here that's attached to this. If possible, open up a multi-currency account. There's not a lot of banks here in the United States that has those. There is one that is called EverBank. Now, but it's kind of complicated. It's not that simple. Now, I do have my Hong Kong bank account that is open, and that is a multi-reserve currency account, and I'm able to do that, but it's not that simple to go to Hong Kong and open up a bank account. Those are things that you may want to check in for yourself and to do your own work. The next item is consider precious metals. Most people are saying that gold and silver will basically hold or go up during this period of time. Now, I know those of you who have attended my workshops, I have said that basically I think gold will probably collapse. Yes, that is a possibility after a global currency reset, after a GCR, when a lot more gold is brought back into the open public market. That's the key. Until then, if we only have the amount of gold that is available now, gold will probably go up in this currency collapse, and that would be a safe place to put it. But you have to watch it, is what you have to do. Now, number 4, you're going to want to protect your investments. Anything that you have in the stock market, anything you have in a 401k retirement accounts or IRAs, almost all of those are tied to the stock market. You can expect if there's going to be a currency collapse, there's also going to be a market collapse. Why? Well, right now, the stock market is in an inflated bubble. If you go back to the 1990s, remember when we had that high-tech stock market bubble where it just absolutely exploded? It's a bubble that collapsed. Financial experts, cabal-type people, Wall Street manipulators, they know this stuff. They deliberately create these bubbles to make money on the way up, and then they collapse it to make money on the way down. They do this to eliminate their competition, and in the process, we and I get caught in the storm, and we're the ones that get hurt. It happened again in about 2003 to 2007 with the real estate bubble. Pump up the real estate market, make money on the way up, create literally millions and millions of people getting into debt, collapse the market, and some of them became overnight billionaires in that collapse. And during that period of time, we saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average drop 53% in 6 months. Well, right now, we're in a stock market bubble. This bubble is artificially inflated. It's been pumped up, and they're getting ready to collapse it again because the experts know how to do put options and to short stocks and to make a lot of money on the way down. See, when you have millions and millions of people who have money in the stock market and they don't know how to use the market, well, when money is lost, it never really goes away. It only transfers hands. So what you have is millions are losing money and a very few are gaining that, and they're becoming multimillionaires and billionaires through this collapse. That is what they're going to do. Now, what are some of the things that you can do that? you can basically move it out of stocks and you can move it into bonds. Bonds preserve your capital. But remember, if the currency collapses, then your bond value is going to drop as well because of the currency issue. But there's another thing that you can take a look at. And I don't have time to go into details on this, but it's what's called ETFs, exchange traded funds. There are literally thousands and thousands of those out there. ETFs are like mutual funds that trade like a stock. And what you can do, you can find a foreign currency ETF and you can put your money into that. That means it will preserve that capital. And if it's in a foreign currency, when the US dollar collapses, that can actually go up. In a collapsing situation, there are always a few things that will go up in value. There are some stocks and some companies that will preserve and hold their value if not go up. Because in a collapse, people still have to use basic staples. Food, basic supplies around your home, toilet paper, paper towels, whatever it may be. Those types of things, people still need to use those every day regardless of what's going on in the market. Look at ETFs. Look at bonds, look at moving your money into foreign currencies. These are some of the things that you can do. Each person needs to do their individual homework. Now remember, I am not here to be a professional financial advisor. This is just for your information purposes only. I would highly recommend that you seek your own professional financial advice as much as you need to do that. And number 5, in this process, prepare yourself to help others. There's going to be people that are going to get caught into this whirlwind. The people who prepare are the people who are in place to help others. In about the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to bring you a program where we can step up to do that. You know, there's a great illustration. Before real estate loans came around, you go back into the late 1800s, how were communities built? How did people build their homes and their barns and stuff like that when you couldn't go out and get a real estate loan? It was called community rallying around each other. An individual would say, I need to build a barn. I have the land, I have the materials, and the word would go out to the community. And like as an illustration, they would all come together on a Saturday, 20 and 30 people, and they would help a neighbor build their barn. And then when it came someone else's turn, they would go there. They not only built their barns, they built their houses, they built their buildings, they built their communities through community cooperation. There's a need for us to return to that. And I'm going to show you a program that's going to come up, and I said in about 3 to 4 weeks, that is very helpful for that. It allows us to unplug from this corrupt corporate profit system that is about making profits for the wealthy at the expense of the everyday masses. And we can unplug from that as much as possible. We can unplug from that and begin to develop community and helping each other. These are the things that we can do to prepare. Now, I want to go back to what I introduced to you 2 weeks ago, the Liberty Debt Elimination Program. A number of you have taken a look at that. Again, in this week's newsletter, I'm going to edit the radio program from 2 weeks ago. I'll cut out what I call the introductory chit-chat and chatter in the beginning of the program, and I'll get right down to when I had the interview with David Fairmont. I can understand for many of you, this is something it takes a little time to think it through, to look at it, to digest it, and to consider it. It did for me. Charla stepped into it. She did it totally on her own. I was kind of critical at the beginning. I wasn't really receptive to it. And then 3 months later, when I found out that she had $12,000 of debt just totally wiped out, I thought, maybe I better take a look at this. She's now at the $23,000 level, totally gone, no problems. And you will hear from David Fairmont, 13 years of a 100% success rate, totally legal. And the reason is, you see, as long as we plug into this fraudulent lending system of the corrupt banking cartel here in the United States and other countries around the world, then all we're doing is feeding the beast. We're feeding the monster. And we are then hurting ourselves in this process. By being able to take advantage of this program, you can legally eliminate your debt and you can begin to reverse this corrupt system that's collapsing our economy and in many ways is going to collapse our country here in the United States and most of all of the other major Western economic countries as well. Take advantage of this if it's for you. You need to make that decision yourself, but I would encourage you to go take another look at it. This is the ability to not only eliminate that debt, to free up capital that you can use to take advantage of this collapsing system, and that you won't be stuck in a process of having to ask others for help. You can be in a position where you can help others. It's coming, folks. If you don't want to prepare for it, well, that's your choice. You know, when you go back to the Wall Street crash, the experts saw it coming, and they talked about it. In the 2008 real estate crash, the experts saw it coming, and they started talking about it 6 to 8 months in advance. I was so blind myself during that period of time because I was so caught up into my own real estate investment. It was like I was blind to what they were saying. I couldn't hear it. I couldn't see it. And I got caught in it, and it caught me, and you know my story. This time, I'm prepared. This time, I'm here to help others, and I'm here to help you. And so prepare yourself. Do what you need to do. Number 1, get out of debt. Number 2, prepare your home. Number 3, move your excess money into a safe place. Number 4, protect your investments. Number 5, put yourself into a position to help others. Thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful for you. This may be a video that you're going to want to share with others and send it to your friends, your loved ones, and your families of those who are willing to listen and ready to listen. Thanks a lot. Love all of you. Have an absolute wonderful week. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.